Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one that shook the battlefield, rattled global diplomacy, and sent a clear message that echoes far beyond the front lines. When civilians became targets once again, the response was not delayed, not hesitant, and certainly not symbolic. Ukraine's reaction was instant, calculated, and devastatingly effective. This is not just a tale of retaliation, but a powerful demonstration of resilience, intelligence, and strategic evolution in modern warfare. The conflict had already crossed countless red lines, but this particular strike marked a chilling escalation. Russian attacks hit civilian areas with ruthless precision, leaving behind shattered homes, burning vehicles, and innocent lives lost in moments. Streets that once echoed with everyday life were suddenly filled with sirens, smoke, and grief. Hospitals overflowed, emergency responders worked without pause, and families searched desperately for loved ones under rubble. These were not military bases or strategic depots. These were neighborhoods, marketplaces, and residential zones. The immediate aftermath was chaos, but beneath that chaos, something else was forming. A cold, focused resolve. Ukraine had seen this pattern before, and this time the response was already prepared. There would be no empty statements, no delayed reactions. What followed was a masterclass in rapid retaliation and strategic brilliance. Within hours of the civilian strikes, Ukrainian command centers were fully activated. Intelligence units analyzed trajectories, launch points, and communication intercepts. Satellite imagery, drone feeds, and human intelligence all converged into a single, clear picture. Ukraine knew exactly where the attacks had come from, and more importantly, how to respond in a way that would hurt Russia where it mattered most. This was not revenge driven by emotion alone. This was justice executed through precision. Ukraine's retaliation did not target civilians. Instead, it went straight for the backbone of Russian military operations. Ammunition depots hidden deep behind the front lines were struck with pinpoint accuracy. Command centers believed to be secure were suddenly engulfed in explosions. Supply routes that fed Russian artillery units were disrupted, creating immediate shortages on the battlefield. One of the most striking elements of Ukraine's response was its timing. The strikes came so quickly that Russian forces barely had time to adjust. There were no mass troop movements, no visible buildup that could be detected in advance. Everything happened with surgical speed, catching Russian commanders completely off guard. Drones played a critical role in this operation. Advanced unmanned systems flew low and silent, evading air defenses that had already been weakened. These drones were not just weapons. They were eyes in the sky, confirming targets, assessing damage, and guiding follow-up strikes in real time. Each hit was deliberate, each explosion purposeful. As news of the retaliation spread, the psychological impact became just as significant as the physical damage. Russian military bloggers, often used to projecting confidence, suddenly shifted their tone. Reports of destroyed equipment, disrupted communications, and mounting losses flooded social media channels. Confusion rippled through Russian ranks, with some units reportedly retreating or refusing orders amid the chaos. Ukraine's response also sent a powerful message to its own people. The attacks on civilians had been intended to break morale, to spread fear and helplessness. Instead, they triggered unity and determination. Ukrainians saw that their military could and would respond decisively, that civilian lives were not forgotten or ignored. This was a statement of protection as much as retaliation. Internationally, the reaction was immediate. Global leaders condemned the civilian strikes in the strongest terms, while Ukraine's response was widely viewed as legitimate self-defense. Analysts noted the stark contrast between the two approaches: indiscriminate violence versus targeted military action. This difference reinforced Ukraine's standing on the world stage and strengthened calls for continued support. What made this retaliation particularly brilliant was its strategic depth. Ukraine did not rely on a single wave of attacks. Instead, it launched a coordinated series of strikes over several days, each building on the last. As Russian forces scrambled to repair damage and reposition assets, new targets were hit. This constant pressure prevented recovery and amplified the overall impact. Logistics hubs were a key focus. Without fuel, ammunition, and spare parts, even the largest military force grinds to a halt. Ukrainian strikes destroyed fuel depots, set supply trucks ablaze, and severed rail connections critical to Russian operations. In some areas, Russian artillery units were reportedly forced to ration shells or cease fire altogether. Another crucial aspect was electronic warfare. Ukrainian forces jammed communications, intercepted signals, and disrupted command chains. Orders were delayed or never received. Units became isolated, unable to coordinate with each other. In modern warfare, information is power, and Ukraine demonstrated a growing mastery of this domain. The retaliation also showcased Ukraine's ability to adapt and innovate. New tactics were employed, combining traditional artillery with precision, guided munitions, and drone swarms. Decoys were used to draw out air defenses, which were then targeted and destroyed. Each move reflected lessons learned over months of intense combat. For Russia, the consequences were severe. Beyond the immediate losses, the attacks exposed vulnerabilities that could no longer be ignored. Bases thought to be beyond reach were suddenly within striking distance. Defensive systems once considered reliable failed under pressure. This forced Russian commanders to rethink their strategies, often pulling resources away from offensive operations to protect rear areas. Morale among Russian troops reportedly took a significant hit. Fighting far from home, facing constant threats even behind the front lines, and witnessing the destruction of key assets created a sense of insecurity. Some soldiers questioned leadership decisions, especially the wisdom of targeting civilians when the retaliation proved so costly. Ukraine's message was clear and unmistakable. Attacks on civilians would not go unanswered. Every strike would carry consequences, and those consequences would be felt by the military machine responsible, not by innocent people. This episode also highlighted the evolving nature of the war. No longer confined to trenches and front-line clashes, the conflict now spans deep strikes, cyber operations, and information warfare. Ukraine's ability to operate across all these domains simultaneously demonstrated a level of sophistication that continues to surprise observers. The role of intelligence sharing with allies cannot be overlooked. Real-time data, advanced surveillance, and strategic coordination amplified Ukraine's capabilities. While Ukrainian forces executed the strikes, the broader network of support played a crucial role in enabling such rapid and accurate responses. As days passed, the full scale of the damage became clearer. Satellite images showed scorched facilities and destroyed infrastructure. Reports indicated significant delays in Russian operations across multiple sectors. In some regions, offensive actions stalled completely, giving Ukrainian forces valuable breathing room. At the same time, Ukraine remained focused on protecting its civilians. Air defenses were reinforced, evacuation plans updated, and emergency services strengthened. The retaliation was not just about punishment, but about deterrence and defense. Critically, Ukraine avoided escalation traps. The strikes were powerful but measured, aimed at military targets directly linked to the civilian attacks. This careful calibration reduced the risk of uncontrolled escalation, while still delivering a devastating response. The world watched closely, and many analysts described the operation as one of Ukraine's most effective responses to date. It combined speed, precision, intelligence, and restraint in a way that exemplified modern defensive warfare. For Ukrainians, this moment became a symbol of strength. In the face of tragedy, they saw action. In response to cruelty, they witnessed resolve. The narrative shifted from victimhood to agency, from suffering to strategic dominance. Looking ahead, this incident is likely to influence future dynamics of the war. Russia may think twice before launching similar attacks, knowing that the response will be swift and costly. Ukraine, meanwhile, continues to refine its capabilities, learning and adapting with each engagement. This was not just revenge, it was a statement, a declaration that civilian lives matter, that war crimes will have consequences, and that intelligence and strategy can overcome brute force. As the conflict continues, moments like this remind the world why Ukraine's fight resonates so deeply. It is not just a battle for territory, but a struggle for dignity, security, and the right of civilians to live without fear. And so, when civilians were hit, Ukraine did not hesitate. The response was instant, the execution was brilliant, and the message was heard loud and clear. If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure to stay tuned for more in-depth analysis and updates. The story is still unfolding, and every day brings new developments that shape the future of this conflict. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.